Coming up on Tech News Today, SOPA and PIPA are dead for now. Stay vigilant. Plus, details on the Megaupload case, dramatic arrests. Xbox 360 looks pretty crappy. And a no-poach conspiracy? Yeah, you're stuck into it for life. All that and more next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, January 20th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by GoToMeeting. Collaborate face-to-face remotely with GoToMeeting with HD Faces. For your free 30-day trial, visit GoToMeeting.com, promo code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Darren Kitchen.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And Tom Merritt is a little under the weather today, so we will do our best to make sense of this week's news, today's news specifically, with all of you, and kick around what's... This is actually kind of a crazy show. Let's start off with what's either going to sound like good news, or if you're a pessimist, very delayed bad news, because SOPA and PIPA are shelved. SOPA, Representative Lamar Smith announced that the House Judiciary Committee is actually suspending a planned markup for the Stop Online Piracy Act with no date in the works as to when they might get back together to talk about this.
This has been being hailed by everybody on Twitter and a lot of blogs saying SOPA is dead, SOPA is dead, and it looks like SOPA is just kind of, it's asleep away for a long time unless somebody
It's taking a nap. Well, the exact quote says that the committee remains committed to finding a solution to the problem of online piracy, so we shouldn't start celebrating.
Sure. I mean, it's not as if nobody cares as far as pushing this bill forward anymore. I just don't believe that anybody in support for it, or at least the people who have the power to push it through, feel like it has a chance. Now, that's not all. Harry Reid this morning announced that he was suspending a vote on PIPA. That's the bill that's going through the Senate, or was anyway, which is good news. Although if you look at Harry Reid's Twitter account, which is Senator Reid, he did tweet he was optimistic on a PIPA agreement in the coming weeks. Now, Darren, I don't know about you, but to me, it doesn't sound like he's giving anything up.
Right. Well, at the same time, though, others speculate that, you know, that no new legislation would actually be proposed until after the November elections. And then, you know, like, for example, Ron Paul goes on to say that he's like, look, this bill's not going to pass, but watch out for the next one. It's just, that's the message that I'm getting is, you know, sometime between a few weeks and after November. Either way, don't let your guard down. Yeah,
it seems as though being against these bills is popular now. At the most recent GOP debate, all four of the candidates voiced their opposition to SOPA and PIPA. Newt Gingrich said the idea that we're going to preemptively have the government start censoring the internet on behalf of giant corporations' economic interests strikes me as exactly the wrong thing to do. Mitt Romney said it's too intrusive, it's too expansive. So in a way, Iyaz and I were talking about this a little bit before the show. Do you want to tell the internet public what they want to hear? Is it cool to be against SOPA and PIPA now?
See, I think it's strange that people keep thinking of it as like internet people versus regular people. I mean, like, I don't know who's not on the internet in the United States. I mean, I know that access is limited, but you can go to libraries, and this is a very fundamental tool that people are using all the time. Now, some people may not be aware of all the threats to the potential censorship that could happen, or the lack of access you could have in the long run, but this is something that affects everyone. So I think it's so strange when people keep saying, well, the internet won. It's like, you're on the internet. Everyone's on the internet. So like when people vilify corporations, there are people in charge of these things.
Is the MPAA on the internet? Is MPAA Chairman Chris Dodd on the internet? See, he says he blames the bill's lack of success or reduced support here with a slow timeline that, get this, allowed opposition to mobilize. Heaven forbid the opposition mobilizes.
Yeah, this should have just been pushed through way faster before anybody had a chance to even think about going dark on January 18th. What's interesting, if you bring up Chris Dodd, is he's a former senator. He was a senator as recently as last year, and the law stipulates that for 2 years you can't directly lobby members of Congress once you're in the position to do so. Okay, well, he's about a year into that. What happens around this time next year? And he's interested in pushing a bill like SOPA through Congress again. And he has the opportunity to throw, and when we say lobby, I mean, it basically means give people money, put money in, behind contributions to fundraising efforts for politicians. What happens when he has that kind of power again? I mean, this is somebody who was in the Senate for decades, so he's obviously tight with a lot of these people. What happens then?
I mean, you would have to think that they would learn from this lesson that if you go up against, you put up these ridiculously overbroad things, there can be a reaction to the point that even the GOP candidates have to mention this in the debate. Like, it's not like this tiny thing you can kind of hide anymore. When they tried this with SOPA, and when this tried to get passed through so fast, I think it was like introduced in October, and they wanted to get it done by January. That's incredibly fast for any law to get from a bill to a law. So you can't just smuggle these things in. So if they're going to bother with this, if they want to have something like Stop Online Piracy Act, they should maybe address that in the statute instead of bothering to not include any of that. This super broad, insane kind of their wording just didn't make any sense to do what they wanted to do. If you want to stop piracy, that's not what this would have done. So try again. So I'm hoping that he's going to learn from this.
Yeah, going on what you said about this not stopping piracy, a lot of the feedback that I've gotten from the Hack 5 audience is, and something that I truly believe, is that, other than just creating a huge mess, it also creates a mess that maybe some people aren't thinking about, in that it drives the piracy even more underground. It drives, the internet as a whole to almost like fork and become two internets, and then things get even more exciting with IP version 6, where like, you get 1 trillion addresses, you get 1 trillion addresses, and things like this, these technical, they're just not technically feasible what is being proposed.
There's also the opportunity for people who have interest in mind of getting something like PIPA or SOPA passed through Congress to change the wording a little bit, change the name of the bill.
Well,
SOPA is something that, a million jokes have been spawned from SOPA. Everybody, even if you don't exactly know what it does, you know that if you've been following people on the internet anyway, that it's, potentially very dangerous, it'll hurt the internet, it'll stop online activity as we know it. But if something else is worded differently and the momentum is down and people have sort of moved on to something, that's how these bills end up passing through.
I think Ron Wyden's behind the Open Act right now. That's, I think, the next one that's about anti-piracy, but it doesn't seem to be as, I guess, rancorous as these other ones. So he's always the backstop. Usually when these things go through, he usually puts things on hold when it gets to him. So I'm sure that his act is going to be, combed over by the same people. I mean, it's not like... It doesn't matter that he's the guy that has stopped these things in the past. You still want to make sure you check these laws out. So it doesn't, the open name does help. It does sound a lot nicer.
Right.
But you definitely always that way, though. It's like the Patriot Act. Yeah. No, but I think that as long as whatever comes next, there's the same level of opposition. I don't think I've ever seen this much opposition to a bill on the internet with the kind of, like what we saw on the 18th. That was absolutely unprecedented, and I feel like if that continues, and there's a fighting chance of keeping the internet sane.
Well, we'll certainly do our best to make sure that we're on top of it so that you are on top of it as well, and you can be as politically active as you so desire. All right, moving on to, the Megaupload case. We mentioned it yesterday. It had broken right before yesterday's show. We have a lot more information on what exactly went down, particularly a helicopter police entry into Kim.com's mansion in New Zealand, where apparently when they went in to arrest him, he had some sort of like Mission Impossible rooms where he could close himself off electronically, and they ended up having to cut him out of like a metal safe room. Nuts.
I think that actually happened at the end of...
it's like Panic Room.
Yeah.
That movie,
Yeah.
Panic Room.
I was
That's
gonna
probably
say,
what he had, is a Panic Room.
Ready Player One, it's kind of, anyway, just the idea of just having to cut someone out of a box. This is totally sci-fi.
Yeah, very dramatic. He wasn't the only one arrested. He's being held without bail. He at his extradition hearing, he was denied it. He will be back in court on Monday to see what comes next. There's also a 72-page indictment with a lot of incriminating things against the members of Megaupload, their executive team, their employees. The idea is that what the U.S. government wants to pin on them is that they not only knew that people were using Megaupload service to store and share illegally downloaded or illegally obtained material, but that they themselves were participating and even encouraging it and fudging their numbers so that their top 10 videos that were shared were not actually reflecting the perhaps pirated material that was actually the top 10 shared things. So what do you guys make of this?
Well, just some of the quotes that have come out from the document. For example, one of the chats among employees in 2008 here, one person says, we've got a funny business, modern day pirates. And the other person says, we're not pirates. We're just providing shipping services to pirates.
Right. Now, see, that alone, that can be like a wink-wink type of a conversation that, I mean, that alone isn't going to put anybody in prison. But if you have enough of these examples, it starts to look particularly bad, especially when you can couple that with maybe those same employees. There's a history of them, sharing an episode of Seinfeld or something.
Yeah, this kind of knowledge is, if it's out there, that would mean that they would no longer be in the safe harbor provision of the DMCA. Like if you're just like a dumb pipe, you don't know what's going on, it's okay. But if you start knowing what's going on, and this is happening, that's what the feds are trying to pin on these guys. And the question is whether that's the case or not. And that's what their attorney, Megaupload's attorneys, Ira Rothkin, who used to represent ISO Hunt, I guess the MPAA, he's saying that this is not different than YouTube. We are like YouTube. Whatever's our clients are innocent, of course he's going to say that. And they're building a nice little team to stop this. And the thing that's been driving me a little nuts, by the way, is this Twitter backlash. People are ticked that they can't get their actual legal files on Megaupload because the feds seized the servers, so they're physically not there, so you can't access them. And I'm likening this to, if I have a friend of mine who's a bit sketchy and I leave something at his house and then the feds bust him and they seize my thing, it's like, well, you know what? That kind of happens. I'm sorry that your stuff's gone, but if you kind of left it there, it's kind of your own fault. But, I mean, there are other services out there.
Yeah, I think about it this way, in that there's so many different places that you can store your stuff online. And like, for example, Dropbox. But you wouldn't think of Dropbox as kind of this sort of place. I feel like there's an implied intent here. Anybody that's been, I would say anybody that's been to Megaupload kind of knows what's going on. So maybe that's not where you
I had
share
some legal
that.
files up
and
there.
that's not to say that the same thing couldn't happen over at a Dropbox. But I think that's where the distinction is here in the intent and also some of the just grossness of the people running it with their 14 Mercedes Benzes and their Maseratis and things of that nature. Yeah,
that was also part of the indictment, which is a long but very, very interesting read. It sounds like the people running Megaupload were wildly financially successful, but as you said, Iyaz, it's the sort of thing where, okay, let's say Megaupload just went out of business and their servers got shut down and people weren't able to take off anything that they might have had hosted on Megaupload service before that happened because, I don't know, there wasn't good communication. That stuff happens all the time, too. It's unfortunate, but that would have been almost the same situation for anybody who's just a regular consumer.
And as a side note, Ars Technica, when they were digging through the 72-page indictment, they found out that Google told Megaupload they couldn't provide AdSense services anymore because Megaupload had numerous links to copyrighted content. So that doesn't look good for them either because Megaupload then created their own internal advertising agency to fill in that gap. So it's not looking so great for Megaupload, but they got a good legal team, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story. Even I think as recently as last November, Megaupload had sent a note, like an email note to PayPal saying, you better watch out for some of these other companies because they're participating in illegal file transfer, almost like, well, I guess you can look at it two ways. Either they actually really believed that and believed that they themselves were not doing anything wrong, or wanted to have the perception that they really cared about online piracy and stopping it with some of their competitors.
Well, if they really cared, they wouldn't have a 2,500 DMCA takedowns per day limit on, like, Time Warner, for example, which they so graciously increased to 5,000. Right. 5,000.
Yeah, sure, Time Warner. I also want to mention, we talked yesterday about Swiss Beats, rapper, music producer, who was named as the CEO of Megaupload, and we all sort of went, well, that's sort of random. He's not named in the 72-page indictment anywhere. His actual role is a bit unclear. His publicist has said, yes, he is the CEO of Megaupload. But apparently Megaupload's site was redesigned just a few months ago, where his name was actually added to the executive team. So it is still unclear what role, if any, he has in the company beyond name alone. All right, moving on to Facebook, perhaps to take over from YouTube as Vevo's best friend. Now, if you're familiar with any Vevo music videos, Vevo is a music video site where you can watch music videos from a lot of the biggest artists in the world. They have agreements with 3 out of the 4 of the big music labels. And any of the Vevo videos on YouTube, millions and millions of views, extremely popular YouTube account. And they have a year left as a contract between Vevo and YouTube. Now, you can watch any of these videos on Vevo itself, but YouTube is a place most people equate with watching Vevo videos. Apparently, they're shopping around some options. In a year, maybe they'd like to move over to Facebook. Now, of course, you have to assume that Facebook has a real vested interest in something like this because of the whole music sharing initiative that we talked about last week, where not only can Iyaz now see in his little news river that I'm listening to this song or this song or this song, but then he can kind of jack in and listen to the same song that I'm listening to, as long as we both have the app, you know, the Spotify app or RDO or MOG app. Running on our Facebook account, talk about it and chat. If we're both watching a music video, I think Facebook's #1 priority is to keep people on Facebook longer, as long as possible. So does this seem like a good idea?
Well, the source of this news is from CNET. They have sources, and they're saying that these talks are preliminary. Just want to get that out of the way. But I thought Vevo and videos and sharing and I guess like watching with friends to me makes much more sense than listening to music with friends. I know I was mocking this the other day. I was like, oh yeah, I'll listen to a song when you play it. Why would I ever do that? But if we're watching something at the same time, like I do that, you do that in theaters and television. It's very normal.
You actually do that on Xbox Live with Netflix. You can watch.
Right. So like,
your
oh, did you
together.
see that scene in the Foo Fighters video? That was hysterical. Or that was stupid. Like that seems like it'd be a much more interactive experience. Than,
you don't want to listen to Wham and Aha with me?
And then no, sorry.
Okay, because neither do I.
But yeah, I think it's a good move from Facebook if they're going to push along with this. I mean, to a lot of people, Facebook's the internet anyway. So why not put music videos there instead of going out to YouTube? Darren, you got the facepalm going, but you know, to a lot of people it is, because when it's down, people complain on Twitter. The Facebook was down. That was always a fun little use of Twitter. But it would be really aggressive. I mean, Facebook, they could use something like this. They already have movie rentals. Why not go into music videos? Vevo on YouTube works just fine, but nobody really goes to the Vevo site, or I'm sure somebody does, so very few people go there. But I think it's a really smart move for Facebook, the way they're pushing to music, because then they could be like MySpace.
Oh, yay. You really just nailed that argument right at the end there.
Yeah, exactly what they want to be more like. I don't know. This whole thing to me sounds like it's going to appeal to the same people who are watching Vevo videos on YouTube. I don't think they really care. I would say that probably the majority of people who are watching Vevo videos on YouTube have Facebook accounts. Not all of them, but the majority. So
As long as this doesn't
you
mean
watch
that,
them
like,
wherever you watch them.
As long as this just adds choice and doesn't mean that those videos are no longer in YouTube. Because then that would be a real
Well, they wouldn't
Well, they
officially
wouldn't
be there from Vevo, right?
They wouldn't be.
Yeah.
The thing is, you'll have the other copies that'll show up because people will upload them anyway. So that's the other issue. Because I know when you look for a song on YouTube, the Vevo one will be right up top.
Yeah.
Versus like the 6th generation copy of a VHS tape from something. You know, it's really hideous.
Yeah, that actually, that opens up a whole thing. If Vevo videos are, if they have an exclusivity agreement with Facebook, because of course the whole idea that Vevo videos are on YouTube right now is that they have a profit sharing with the ads that they run at the bottom of the videos. If they have the same thing over on Facebook, but then these videos keep showing up on YouTube,
well, then
that's a whole other takedown thing.
Well, they don't have to share any profit with Google then.
Right, and the music industry.
That's true, but they don't want people to be watching them on YouTube when they should be watching them on Facebook, getting everybody more money.
I mean, the music industry has been fighting with Google back and forth about takedowns all the time until they can set up something like this. So if they do go away and they start up this second round of takedowns, it'll be a mess.
All right, well, we've got another year before we know exactly what Vevo is doing, but they are talking to Facebook. They are exploring their options. They may be a free agent soon. We'll see. All right, we've got quite a few more stories, but before we get to those, let's thank GoToMeeting for sponsoring this episode of Tech News Today. Obviously, if you have to meet with your coworkers on a regular basis, it's best to be in person. But let's face it, that's not the way the world works anymore. Very often, you just can't be in the same room with the people that you are collaborating with, and that's why GoToMeeting with HD Faces is a great, great solution. Not only can you collaborate remotely, but everybody looks really good. GoToMeeting by Citrix. We love our friends at Citrix. Just takes a webcam and a click, and you're collaborating with your group in HD video. You can invite other members of the team to come on in, and you can be watching screenshots. Everybody's looking at the same screen. You know, you're on the same page with everybody. It's as if you're in the same room, and in a way, it's almost even better, because you've got more flexibility. GoToMeeting is very easy to simple to set up, easy to use. Doesn't matter if you're 1 mile apart, 1,000 miles apart. We use it for meetings here. HD video is obviously the way that everything is going. So if you're going to be talking to somebody who's not anywhere near you, you want them to look as good as possible. So here's the deal. Start hosting your own face-to-face online meetings with GoToMeeting. It's free for 30 days. So if you want to try it out, if you're like, I need a better solution than whatever I'm using right now, but I'm not sure if it's right for me, try it for free. And if you go to GoToMeeting.com, click the Try It Free button and use the promo code TNT. That's how you get it free for 30 days. So GoToMeeting.com, promo code TNT, and we thank them for sponsoring this episode of Tech News Today. Moving on now to the Xbox 360 having some color issues. Iyaz, what is happening?
So a new Xbox dashboard update caused some issues. Some people are saying that video playback isn't working like it used to. Apparently the black levels are off and the colors are washed out, but the problem is only limited to video playback, which is kind of strange. When you are playing a game, this doesn't happen. Now that bug was acknowledged by Major Nelson of Xbox Live, and they say a fix is coming. But apparently there are more bugs that people are complaining about. There's a whole HD video issue. Apparently non-Zune Marketplace content is only playing back at 720p. But if you have 1080p Zune content, it'll play in 1080p. So Microsoft hasn't acknowledged this bug yet, and people were wondering, okay, well, are you guys unfairly giving an advantage to Zune Marketplace video because, hey, 1080p is better than 720p? I don't know how many people are really staring at a screen to notice that, but it shouldn't be a limitation, especially if you went through the effort of getting 1080p video.
Well, and it seems a little, I don't know. I mean, the fact that it's Zune Marketplace content, that's the only content that's fine. I don't know, Darren, conspiracy theory, do you have one?
I can actually see it going two ways, and I guess it really depends on whether or not it's like actually downscaling 1080p content to 720p if it's not from the Zune Marketplace. Now, I'd be interested to see if what a similarly encoded file would do, because the Zune Marketplace, I don't know if they're using like H.264 or what, but I could see this being either a technical limitation or a very pathetic attempt to get people to use the Zune Marketplace for a little bit more resolution.
I don't know.
The fact that it hasn't been commented on, you would think that if this was actually, you know, the latter, that there would be some sort of comment. I think it's a bug.
You just think it's a bug?
I don't know. I hope it's a bug, because if this is the distinction...
Who's buying stuff on Zune Marketplace? How about that, first of all? Okay,
well,
nobody's buying stuff on Zune Marketplace.
Well, that's the idea.
So then there should be a conspiracy theory here. Microsoft's far too smart.
Well, wait a second. So you think that Microsoft is saying, what if we just... It'll be like a subconscious thing where people will start saying, but everything from the Zune Marketplace just looks better. That's where we should get it from.
Sure, I'm arguing that.
And they're going to get away with that?
Are they going to get away with it? No. They won't get away with it.
But that somebody sat in a room... Or maybe they use GoToMeeting if they're not in the same room and said, let's do this. It'll be very tricky, very clever.
Yeah, this one tiny thing, and they're going to get the real snobs who are really noticing between 720p and 1080p. They're going to really...
Well, don't you think the video files have gone...
I can tell the difference.
But, I mean, on your Xbox 360, you're not going to be doing that.
Yeah, and that's why I think you're right, because the video files, you know, the people that actually would notice that difference... They got a PS3 because it plays Blu-ray.
Yeah,
they didn't get an Xbox to play HD
watching this
DVD.
Super compressed piece of video.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it'll play 1080p from the Zune Marketplace, and then they'll also bring back HD DVD for 1080p.
Odds are they just...
That's probably what it is.
Microsoft, this is a bug. It'll be settled. It's not that big a deal.
All right, a bug. That's what we think anyway. Moving on to patent wars.
I love how you make it like almost a secret. You have no clue whatsoever. It's like you're just moving on to the next story.
Yeah.
Then it's patent wars suddenly.
It's like a surprise party.
Exactly.
I really love patent wars. What can I say?
Hold on to your smartphones.
I especially love the patent
Guess
wars
who it is
between
this time?
Samsung and Apple.
Oh, them again.
Yeah, it's this is nothing new, and in fact, it's starting to get really confusing who's suing who and about what. Today, the Mannheim Regional Court in Germany ruled that Apple did not infringe on one of Samsung's patents. This was a patent that Samsung sued Apple over infringement related to 3G UTMS telecommunications in Germany. Now, Samsung says, all right, well, they can appeal. They haven't said whether they want to or not. They probably do. They're probably trying to figure out if it's worth it. But that doesn't end anything. The Samsung Apple patent war in Germany is alive and well. There are 4 other lawsuits, over 6 more patents. And Foss Patents actually reports that the same court held a hearing in an Apple suit against Samsung, and that one was about slide to unlock, which technically isn't even a patent suit. It refers to intellectual property called utility model. And those aren't a given presumption of validity like patents. Okay.
Yeah, they don't test those. And there's actually 2 of them in question. EP 1964022.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
That's a good
obviously. But it just gets even more confusing then.
They'll just keep fighting it out until the end of time, or the cross-licensing agreement will happen. That's usually what I say at the end of these things, because that's usually what happens.
Right.
Because, I mean, they're positioning for so long. And the thing is, you know, Apple can keep trying to get Samsung products not shelved, and Samsung can do the same. But, I mean, it seems like in the long run, they just want processors and screens, Apple, and Samsung just wants the money. So, like, it totally is going to work out in the long run. But, like, I mean, who would have thought that Apple and Microsoft would work together?
It seems like they're really just kind of like, you know, picking at hairs now, because it's like, oh, well, the esoteric utility patent that we got in Germany that Apple could have sued about years ago, but they never did.
The weird thing about this one for me is if they're going after the Galaxy Nexus ice cream sandwich, I mean, it's kind of going after Google at that point, because the Galaxy Nexus is the flagship device. I mean, the lock screen on the Galaxy Nexus isn't really like the iPhone lock screen. It's got a lot of other functions that the iPhone lock screen doesn't have. I mean, there is the slide part, but that's about the only similarity, because you can go in any direction, and depending on the direction, it launches a different app.
Well, that and the workaround is pretty ridiculous. What, you have an over-the-air update, and the default would be like a PIN code, or you would have that. You would actually have to put a gesture in. I mean, that's the workaround. It would be like that. So it's kind of a silly lawsuit. Other than it would just cost Samsung time and effort to get the over-the-air update to get done. I mean, this is bickering at this point.
Yeah,
It is very much bickering. Cross-licensing.
It'll save the world.
We can hope,
We
anyway.
all pretty much agreed that with Ice Cream Sandwich, it was about the motorboat to unlock anyway. So the fact that they're still using sliding at all is just beyond me.
Moving on to damning evidence against Google and Apple and other companies in a no-poach antitrust lawsuit. Okay, so back in 2010, the Department of Justice conducted an investigation to see if Adobe, Apple, Intel, Intuit, Google, Pixar, and Lucasfilm conspired to stop competition for skilled labor in response to a class action lawsuit. So the deal is that what's alleged is that the companies basically said, all right, let's all agree, if I have an employee who wants to apply for a job at your company, you won't hire them. You won't be interested, because it's like a no-poach type of a thing, which obviously makes sense for companies who want to be in control of their employee roster, but very bad for the employees themselves.
And this is just kind of a gentleman's agreement among these companies. This isn't like a contract. And this is something that the Department of Justice even announced back in September of 2010, that they had settled with these companies over this.
Yeah, apparently the Department of Justice and the companies reached some sort of a settlement. We don't know for exactly what. However, employees opened a class action lawsuits as plaintiffs against these companies who are now defendants because they're saying, hey, listen, you know, if this directly affected me, I need compensation.
And I can totally see this, like, considering the list of companies here, this could really suck. Could you imagine if you were like an awesome programmer over at Intuit, and you had a lead over at, like, I don't know, a cool company like Apple or Pixar, but you couldn't get the job, and you were just destined to write TurboTax for the rest of your life? I mean, that's just cruel and unusual.
Hey, I use TurboTax, and I want it to be as good as possible.
And you want to make sure
particularly this
There's
year.
a support group.
those coders you want to make sure those coders are stuck there indefinitely, and they're going to be there to the end of time, because they can never move on.
They're the only ones that can read the Pascal or COBOL it was written in.
I would just think it would suck between Pixar and Lucasfilm. Like, I mean, like, if you want to, like, I want to work on this property, now I can't, because there's no way I can move between ILM.
Well, actually,
and
there's a
Pixar.
quote in here from from Pixar. Laurie McAdams of Pixar, he sent an email to employees saying that he just got off the phone with Danielle Lambert of Apple, and they agreed that effective now, we'll follow a gentleman's agreement with Apple, similar to like we have with Lucasfilm. So it sounds like kind of some people just, that this was kind of common knowledge.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of this in the industry, actually.
Yeah.
A friend of mine that works in this.
The report itself says in 2005, Adobe CEO Bruce Chazen and Steve Jobs agreed not to poach each other's employees. And not just that. I mean, it's not as if they're saying, I will not aggressively go after your employees. It's, I won't even look at any employees who work for you who might want to end up working for me. That indeed happened, and I was a former employee who worked under some of these people in management. I might be pretty miffed, too. Because they are not the boss. Well, no, actually they were.
Yeah,
they're not the boss of my career, just the boss of my position at the time.
Point.
All right, let's move on to the news views. Zynga confirmed to All Things D that the company is in negotiations with companies to bring online gambling into its portfolio of games. Zynga says that its 30 million people per month play Zynga Poker, and those customers have told the company that they are interested in playing with real money. A shocker. Poker people want to play with real money? I had no idea that ever happened. Zynga would need to get some licenses and may opt to acquire another company to help speed along things.
If you want to sign up for a Google account, you might have to tell them your name and gender. Google is experimenting with a new sign-up form as a part of an effort to expand Google+. You can find the new account page if you follow the links on Google's homepage. The older Google account page, which does not require signing up for Google+ or Gmail, is currently still accessible through Google Reader, Calendar, and other Google services.
Now, what is a cyanogen mod team, Kusik Duta, or also known as Kush, when you're not butchering his name, has started up a marketplace for those misfit Android apps. You know the ones. Cyanogen Mod App Store would provide access to all those rejected apps from the official Android marketplace, like custom ROMs, gaming emulators, unofficial tethering apps, visual voicemail, one-click root apps. They're all going to find a happy home soon. If all goes well.
That sounds like a Christmas special in the Island of the Misfit Apps.
So fuzzy. Google may have
on a very special cyanogen mod.
Google may have fallen short of the profits investors expected, but it's still the best place to work, according to Fortune. The magazine published its top 20 places, and Google topped the list. NetApp in Sunnyvale ranked 6th, due in part to huge bonuses, and Intuit nabbed 19th for giving workers 4 hours a week to work on independent projects that lead to innovation like better TurboTax software.
Oh.
So why is Quicken got progressively suckier with each release? I wonder. You've got 4 hours a week.
And they've got all those programmers that couldn't leave.
Right.
You guys just sticking it into it. I'll stick it for them. You guys do a good job. Okay. An analyst from Northland Capital Markets says that Verizon is testing voice over LTE in 2 trial markets right now, and a nationwide rollout is planned for next year. Now, voice over LTE would get rid of reliance on CDMA or GSM to make calls. It definitely seems plausible since Verizon recently said that all smartphones and tablets on its network must be LTE enabled.
That right there was the best news of the day, by the way.
Yep,
that was the best. Anyway, SkyGrid. They just launched an iPad app called Touch TV, and it allows you to watch programming from CNN and ESPN and NBC. Now, it's not just cable on your iPad, actually. It's just a limited collection of clips. So the app's free, though, and it'll be available on LG televisions in the first quarter of the year.
I'm interested in this. I'll definitely check it out. Clips. I don't know how I feel about that, but I do like I like the SkyGrid app.
For sports, I think it's a good thing. But otherwise, it's like
Yeah.
You just win an argument by saying sports.
sports. Yes,
Sports.
Any online TV argument can be won by saying sports.
Sports. Okay, so back at CES, if you watched CES Unveiled that Tom and Iyaz hosted, you might have remembered Iyaz showing off the Ion audio guitar Apprentice. Do you remember the iPad guitar instruction app that fit into like a cool guitar case? Did you like that? Yeah. Well, then, sorry about this news. Future Music reports that Behringer served Ion Audio with a cease and desist letter right on the CES show floor. Doesn't get more dramatic than that, claiming that Guitar Apprentice infringes a patent. It was awarded the first day of CES. Guitar Apprentice is also the trademark of a company called Legacy Learning Systems. Ouch. It's so cool, though. Can't they all just get along?
Iran has confirmed the execution order of a software developer. A permanent Canadian resident, Saeed Malikpour, 35, was arrested during a visit to Iran in October 2008. After a year in solitary, he confessed that he was connected to a porn site. An Iranian court sentenced Malikpour to death in October 2010 for designing and moderating adult materials online. Malikpour appealed the ruling and rescinded his confession. Iran's Supreme Court has confirmed the death sentence this week, according to CNET.
The Amazon Kindle topped UK sales charts last Christmas season, but the gift recipients may be storing those Kindles next to the jumpers Grandma knit 'em. MyVoucherCodes.co.uk claims 48% of Brits received presents they haven't used yet. 22% of those respondents admitted that they haven't used the Kindle yet, with 53% of them citing that they haven't downloaded any books for them.
So the Kindle sold well, just nobody was opening them and trying them out.
How does that happen? I guess if you're like, I don't know, I just like my old books. If you never tried it before.
It could be like, what if you're like a tech enthusiast and you're like, here, you're going to love this. And your grandma's like, I don't, thank you.
Or maybe they just don't want to smudge the screen, you know, because it looks really pretty until you touch it.
They don't want any of that e-ink on their fingers. That's the problem. Because it's touch, you know?
Yeah.
Kind of.
All right, let's move on to the randomizer. Best story ever. Get ready for this. Brookstone, you know, they make lots of gadgets. Brookstone has a new product in its lineup, Wi-Fi cufflinks. What do? Well, they let you, discreetly of course, share data and even turn into a MiFi, well, a Wi-Fi hotspot. I'm so used to saying MiFi. A Wi-Fi hotspot so that you can be like a Wi-Fi hotspot at a party for spies. Anybody? Are you into it?
I like it. I really do.
I like
really
it.
do?
Well, yeah, here's the thing. Now, you go into a formal event, and you have to have cufflinks anyway. So I'm like, well, I need something useful. And these things look kind of neat. I mean, I wouldn't mind having a USB, a flash drive on me at all times. Or if this is the weird thing. I've actually had occasions where, like, I wish I had a hotspot. Like, and if it's on your cufflinks all the time, why not?
Okay, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, Iyaz, but you really have to read it very carefully because they say that it acts as a Wi-Fi hotspot when paired with a hardwired PC. Not just any like laptop, but a laptop or a computer that's plugged into the Ethernet.
So it's using like
and I know why too, because what it's doing is it doesn't have any Wi-Fi chip of its own. It's got a program on there that just enables probably the function that's already built into Windows 7 to create a virtual wireless access point.
Windows 7 and OS 10 with their built-in Internet Connect, which sometimes doesn't work.
Yeah.
Hopefully, this is a better solution. I'm just
so you're going to get the cufflinks to make the product, to make the feature that Microsoft and Apple couldn't get to work.
But then I can also show it's...
You would have awesome cufflinks, though.
All it needs is the Batman logo on it. I'd buy it right now.
Really?
That's right.
All right.
Darren, if you're at, I don't know, Kim.com's .com mansion down in New Zealand.
You're right. You want to be blinging.
Big place. Megaupload guy. He's got a lot of money, a lot of cars. You're at a party. You find some sort of a crazy room. It's like a panic room. There's a computer. And then all of a sudden.
Ooh. Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'm stretching.
Download some Seinfeld. Yeah.
Or you could upload something, right?
Oh,
Wi-Fi cufflinks. All right. We're obviously not going to agree on this issue. Let's move on to the calendar.
Good news, TiVo Premiere owners, you're getting an HD guide, integrated Hulu search, and Premiere to Premiere streaming. The update is rolling out to everyone now. Also, if you buy a new Premiere or Elite that was shipped with older software, once you're done with your setup, your guide will update itself to the latest version. Capcom's Resident Evil 6 is coming to Xbox 360 and PS3 on November 20th with a PC version to follow. The 3+ minute trailer is out now for a taste of what's to come.
All right, our voicemail is 260-TNT-SHOW. Got a voicemail from Mike in New York who's wondering about those Megaupload servers that were seized.
Hi, TNT. This is Mike from New York, and I'm calling for a friend. See, my friend may have downloaded some copyrighted material from Megaupload, and he's wondering then if they have confiscated the entire servers, if they're not just going to be interested in the guys with the cars and the vanity license plate, but any users and the IP addresses that actually downloaded the content. Just calling for a friend. Great show.
Of course.
Your friend might be in trouble, I think.
Well, it's...
I don't know. It sounds like there's so much bad, potentially bad, I don't know, that Megaupload was doing. That it seems like, at least initially, that probably is the direction they're going, just kind of focusing on that corporation, not necessarily the users.
But I mean,
wouldn't put it past the MPA and the RIA. They've done it before.
And they're burned after the SOPA thing.
Yeah.
They might be like, let's go take them.
Yeah.
Get those IP addresses.
I mean, the Megaupload has been under scrutiny for a while. There's a 72-page indictment with all sorts of details about what the employees themselves are doing. What about Megaupload? Some of their best users, you know, so they're top users.
They're top uploaders.
Yeah, but you know those top uploaders would have been like, I don't know, going to their local drugstore and picking up one of those prepaid Visa cards and then using that to sign up for a virtual private server and then using an SSH tunnel to reroute their traffic through it in another country so they never reveal their real IP address, obviously.
Obviously.
What if that fake IP address leads to you by accident?
Well, then I'm on IP6. I don't know what you're talking about. That wasn't me.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know if individual users are in trouble here. It's certainly something to think about, though. I mean, obviously, if anybody who uses Megaupload to share anything illegally has to know. I mean, this is like sharing it any other way. Megaupload is not an exception to the case that if you get in trouble, people can go after you. So I hope that your friend knows all of this information.
Tell your friend to run.
Stay safe.
Burn your IP address.
Got an email from Charles. Hey, TNT gang, as a college professor, I give the new and improved release of iTunes U and iBooks a meh. Education has seen several releases of digital solutions such as iTunes U, which was a flop, publisher proprietary ebooks, and Kindle education, none of which has radically changed how students purchase books. The linchpin for every digital solution is publisher buy-in, and the education publishers have been dragging their feet to release material or just flat out refusing to release e-material. It doesn't matter how easy it is to use or beautiful it is if publishers don't support it. It looks like Apple's now trying to counter this with the release of iBooks, the writing app. And while it looks great, makes it easy for me to publish ancillary materials, I wonder about the EULA negatively affecting copyright holders and potentially authors. If I can only release my materials on iTunes, I won't use it. I'll create my only ebook without all the fancy bells and whistles and sell them on all the other ebook sites. Yeah, I mean, you're not the only person who has an issue with the EULA. There are a lot of people who could author an amazing book who say, well, wait a second, I don't want to only be able to sell this through iBooks. That's not fair. Why would I choose this option? Might look pretty, but it's very limiting. Yeah,
the idea is to get this, I mean, the iTunes U and this whole authoring thing is supposed to make these books readily available to lots of people. So if you're just locked down to this one device, it seems a little strange. That's why when I saw the whole press announcement yesterday, I was thinking, oh, this is the first step. There's no way this is the entire strategy. Because, I mean, if you can't access an iBook on your laptop, that seems a little silly. You can't do it on a phone, that seems a little silly. So why not? Well, I'm thinking I want to, before throwing this thing out entirely, this is a long-term plan, I'm thinking, for Apple. This is not simply, this is it, we're done. We're not going to
Well, you know, without any, like, partnerships with the actual book publishers that are making all those textbooks, I don't really think
they got big three.
Yeah, I mean, the deals are in place with the big textbook makers. Then again, if you go to iBooks Textbooks, which is the updated version of iBooks, for anybody who updated in the App Store, there are like 8 books in there. It's not as if there's a whole wealth of textbooks that anybody in college would say, oh, that's the book I need, and oh, it's, you know, version 101 and any of that stuff. I mean, they're definitely at the beginning stages. It almost looks to me like a proof of concept. You know, you want to talk about the beginning stages, it just seems like the eternal return of the internet where, like, with MP3 and, like, you know, iTunes and the whole, like, digital music phenomenon, and then, you know, the movie phenomenon happening behind that, having those same stumblings and same like DRM riddled stuff. And, you know, now you look and you can just get an MP3 on Amazon, like, and it's an actual, like, un-DRM'd copy. So I think it's probably going to take a long and unfortunate time to get there, but that's hopefully the right path. Yeah, the publishing industry is a lot of fun, aren't they? Last email from Mitch. My name is Mitchell. I'm 16 and I live in Sydney, Australia. I was listening to episode 419, and you guys were talking about Apple's announcement for textbook support. In New South Wales, it's a state in Australia, in all public schools, the government handed out Lenovo laptops for educational use. All of our textbooks are in PDF form, and we write notes in OneNote. They have stopped EXE files, and they use a whitelist for web pages. But we found a workaround. This is a cheaper option to iPads for kids, laptops, and in all the textbooks my school bought, they had discs at the back with the electronic version of the book. That's from Mitch. That's an interesting idea, the laptops, going with laptops instead of an iPad. I like that, too, because Mitchell's email is endearing. I love how they bypass the EXE stop. Mitchell, you should watch Act 5.
Just saying.
Yeah, I think for anybody who says, finally, kids can go digital in schools with this new, as long as you can buy an iPad, you've got the world at your fingertips. Obviously, Mitch's school came up with a solution that, is, well, I don't know if it's cheaper because they're talking about laptops, but it's certainly a different way to go about somewhat of the same destination.
I think almost everyone can agree that textbooks are too heavy.
Yes.
So if you can get them digital and you can mark them up and you can use them and have access to them all the time in any which way, that's nice, especially since you never forget a textbook. I'm just thinking of every time I've run back to my dorm or locker for that extra stupid
You never
book.
ran back to your dorm or locker to pick up that PDF you didn't have? Oh, teacher, I forgot my other thumb drive.
Back then, there wasn't.
Yeah.
Actually, I did.
If only there was a way to be able to access your iBook on your Lenovo tablet, then we'd really be in business.
Let's make it happen.
Unfortunately, such is not the case. I want to thank our Redditors. TechNewsToday.reddit.com is where everybody submitted stories. This is very helpful for us. You can submit stories that you want us to feature on the show, or just vote up and down stories submitted by others. Very helpful. Thank you so much to everybody that submitted. We couldn't do this show without you. Also, want to remind people that if you have best of moments, say in the last week, for example, instead of waiting until the end of the year to have you remember that stuff, why don't you write us at TNT@twit.tv, subject best of, and let us know what was the show, what was the moment, even a time code if you've got the video handy. Very, very helpful. Darren, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
As usual.
Pleasure to be here.
What's going on at Hack 5?
Oh, we have a brand new set, and we have a fantastic episode this week all about how you can use TFTP and PXE to boot ISOs off the LAN, obviously.
Oh, cool.
So if you're into network booting, it might be a fun one.
All right. Reminder, you can email us at TNT@twit.tv. Our voicemail is 260-TNT-SHOW. On Monday, we have Mashable's Lance Ulanoff joining us. Until then, have a great weekend, everybody.
Good night, Will.